I stood, raised my glass, and said, "Honey, how about some champagne?" Claire blinked. "No, honey, I'm trying to lose some weight." I chuckled. "Or is it because you're taking antibiotics after catching an STD on that last cruise with your 357 sisters?" Her face went pale. My aunt nearly choked on a deviled egg. And Claire's mother, who never liked me anyway, looked like someone had slapped a ghost across her face. Then I saw it. Not the horror on Claire's face. Not the vein bulging in her brother's neck, or the way her cousin tried to disappear into her white wine. No, I saw my daughter. My oldest, Hannah. Standing there with her phone in her hand, shoulders tight, jaw clenched like she'd been holding something in so long it physically hurt. "Daddy," she said. Her voice cut through the tension like a scalpel. "There's something else I need to tell you." I turned to her. My hands were steady, but my insides felt like a building that just had its foundation yanked out. I'd already heard enough over the past few weeks to last me a lifetime. Anonymous texts, emails, a call from a travel agent who let slip Claire hadn't canceled the second cruise, just moved the date. But this? Whatever Hannah had in her throat, this was going to shift the earth again. She looked down at the phone, then back up at me. Her voice wavered. "It wasn't just the cruise. Mom's been seeing someone for almost a year. Not just someone we all know." The crowd sucked in breath. I stared at my daughter, my girl who used to fall asleep on my chest during thunderstorms and ask me to tell her stories about the stars. My voice was calm, too calm. "Who?" She hesitated. Then, softly, "Uncle Ben." And just like that, the bottom dropped out. Now, I don't remember throwing the champagne glass, but I do remember the way it shattered. Like the last pieces of trust hitting the pavement. Claire gasped, and someone screamed. My brother Ben wasn't even at the reunion yet, claimed he was stuck in traffic. Turns out he was just stuck in Claire's DMs, probably sending shirtless gym selfies like the discount Casanova he always pretended not to be. I didn't say a word. I just walked inside, past the potato salad, past the lemon squares I used to pretend to like, past all the stunned faces trying to figure out whether to comfort me or get the hell out before things got worse. And upstairs, in the quiet, I opened the locked drawer in my desk, pulled out the envelope marked Plan B, because I had a feeling this moment was coming. I just didn't know it would come with such poetic timing. And Claire? She thought the worst thing I could do was expose her in front of her family. She had no idea what the next 9 chapters held. The envelope had been sitting there for 6 weeks. I labeled it Plan B not because I expected to use it, but because part of me needed to know I could. Call it insurance. Call it instinct. Call it what it really was, a growing suspicion that the woman sleeping beside me had already checked out, bags packed, morals dumped, and her alibi neatly folded beside someone else's pillow. Inside the envelope, copies of Claire's texts. Cruise booking confirmations, not just 1, but 2. A printed screenshot of her prescription history. And one grainy, poorly lit photo of her and Ben kissing in the parking lot of a gym he hadn't set foot in since 2014. Evidence. Not just for court. No, this wasn't just legal ammo. This was the psychological payload. This was the quiet bomb that would detonate without a sound but leave her life in a perfect heap of rubble. And as I sat in my upstairs office, reunion still in chaos below, I felt something unexpected. Relief. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't the overworked husband needing attention or clinging to some fantasy of what we used to be. I was right. And right felt a whole lot better than broken. I tucked the folder back into the drawer, not because I needed more time, but because now the clock was ticking for her. I went back downstairs, slow and deliberate, like nothing happened. My brothers were trying to keep the party going badly. Claire was on the edge of the patio, whispering frantically into her phone, probably calling Ben, maybe a lawyer, maybe a therapist. Anyone but me. She caught sight of me, eyes wide, mouth parting to speak. But I held up a hand, just a single finger in the air, like a referee calling timeout. And she froze. "Daddy," Hannah said, coming up beside me again. She looked pale, guilt-ridden. Her fingers curled into the hem of her shirt. I didn't want to say it in front of everyone, but I saw them. A couple times. I didn't know how to tell you. I thought maybe it was just flirting or a mistake. But then, she lied to you. Over and over. I wrapped my arm around her shoulders. You did the right thing. You're not the one who broke anything here. Claire took a shaky step forward. "Ethan, can we talk?" "Oh, now you want to talk?" I said, tilting my head. "We're having a real productive conversation already. Why stop now? Not here. Not like this." "You mean," Not where your lies echo a little louder than you'd like. She flinched at that one. The rest of the family was scattered now, some pretending not to watch, some openly gawking. A few had already slipped out quietly, unwilling to witness the wreckage of what had once looked like a perfect marriage. Claire always made sure we looked perfect. Too bad I was never interested in the photo finish. I cared about the race. I looked around and found my youngest daughter, Lily, sitting on the swing with her cousins, blissfully unaware. Thank God for that. I couldn't let this blowback hit her. Not yet. She was too young to understand that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect your heart are the ones who bury the knife the deepest. I'll make this easy for you, Claire, I said, loud enough for her and the ghosts of our marriage to hear. I know everything. The texts, the cruises, the prescription, the fact that my brother couldn't keep it in his pants, and you couldn't keep it zipped with mine. Her face crumpled like I'd smacked her. Ethan, please. No, I cut her off. We're done talking. I'm not here to scream. I'm not going to throw things. That's not my style. But you need to know something. I stepped closer, inches from her, voice low but sharp as glass. Whatever fantasy life you were building with him, you just set fire to it. And the best part? You lit the match yourself, in front of everyone. She opened her mouth to defend herself again, but I turned away. Because her words didn't matter anymore. Not when the truth already had teeth. That night, after everyone left, I started making calls. First to a lawyer, then to a locksmith, then to Ben's boss at the fire department. Turns out showing up drunk to your shift twice in 1 month gets real interesting when someone files an anonymous tip with a timestamped photo. Then to our accountant. Did Claire know I'd quietly moved the business account into a trust last year? Probably not. That prenup she never wanted to sign? Also a mistake. Mine or hers. This wasn't just about revenge. Revenge is petty, temporary. This was about taking back the pen and writing the ending myself. About showing her, and everyone else, that the quiet ones don't break. We calculate. And when we strike, it's with precision. The next morning was different. Still. Too still. Claire was still in the house. She slept on the couch, her choice. Or maybe she was hoping to play the role of the wounded wife, waiting for the man to calm down, to forgive, to forget. But see that man? He died somewhere between her third lie and her brother-in-law's last text. I made breakfast for Lily. French toast. Her favorite. She didn't know what had happened the night before. And I wasn't about to drag her innocence through the dirt. Her mother walked in. Claire watched from the hallway, wearing that ratty college sweatshirt she always kept for comfort. Probably trying to look soft, pitiful, human. I didn't even look at her. Not once. Just kissed Lily on the forehead and said, "Go get ready for school, kiddo. I packed your lunch." Claire cleared her throat. Ethan. I didn't turn. I didn't want it to be like this. Ben, it was stupid. It didn't mean anything. I turned then. Slowly. Controlled. And looked her straight in the eyes. That's the saddest part, I said. You threw away your marriage, your family, for nothing. Not love. Not even lust. Just emptiness. She flinched. Then whispered, I was lonely. My hands clenched the coffee mug just tight enough to stop them from shaking. You were lonely? While I was out working 60 hours a week to build a life for us. While I missed soccer games, birthday dinners, barbecues, to keep this family afloat while you were sailing off to find yourself on a cruise. I was in the trenches, Claire. You were sipping cocktails with a man who shares my blood. Silence again. She didn't cry. She knew tears wouldn't work this time. I walked to the mudroom and came back with a stack of folders. I dropped them onto the counter. They fanned out like a deck of cards. Cold, legal, unforgiving. What's this? Divorce papers, I said. Filed this morning. Property division outlined. Custody terms for Lily. I'm not fighting you over furniture or silverware. I'm fighting to protect what matters. You already made up your mind? I made up my mind when my daughter told me you let another man into our house. Her face felt like a crumbling facade. The cracks were finally showing. She saw him. No, I said, my voice flat. She felt it. Kids don't need to see the mess to know when they're living in one. She backed away like my words had weight. Like every syllable was a stone in her gut. I didn't follow her. That afternoon, I met with the lawyer again. Her name's Olivia. Sharp. Direct. A woman who's built a reputation for dismantling people who mistake kindness for weakness. She'll probably try to negotiate, Olivia said, flipping through the paperwork. Let her, I replied. But she's not taking Lily. She's not taking the house. She doesn't get to walk out of this with a white dress and no stains. And your brother? I smiled without humor. Ben doesn't know it yet, but he's about to be unemployed. See, firefighters aren't supposed to clock in drunk. And that little fitness influencer side hustle of his? Turns out a few of those brand deals don't look too kindly on family wreckers. You're thorough, she said, raising an eyebrow. No, I said. I'm tired. Tired of people mistaking silence for submission. That night, I didn't come home. Stayed in a hotel. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to feel space. Real space. Between me and the life I was burning down. Claire texted. Of course she did. Claire, can we talk? Just us. No yelling. No lawyers. I didn't answer. Claire, I was stupid. Ethan. I messed up. But don't destroy everything over this. Please. I stared at the screen for a while. Then typed 3 words. Me. You already did. But the part that broke me? Wasn't the cheating. Wasn't the lies. It was Hannah. My firstborn. My little girl who suddenly wasn't little anymore. She knocked on the hotel door 2 days later, eyes red, but not from crying. From anger. She blamed me, Hannah said. Told me I shouldn't have said anything. That this is just a bump. She said that. I asked, my voice low. Hannah nodded. She said you were dramatic. That we could get through it like other couples do. I leaned back against the wall. Stared at the ceiling. She doesn't get it, I muttered. No, Dad, Hannah said, stepping forward. You don't get it. I looked at her. She doesn't get to win. You can't just walk away and let her spin the story. She's already telling people you were cold, distant. That Ben understood her. She's rewriting the narrative. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about my healing anymore. This was about truth, control, dignity. It wasn't enough to walk away. I had to take back the story. Because if Claire wanted to play pretend in front of the world, I'd show her what happens when the real story finally shows up. The moment Hannah walked out of that hotel room, my plan shifted. I'd spent weeks preparing for the cold efficiency of an exit, the lawyer, the documents, the silent fallout. But I'd underestimated Claire's gift. Not her lies. Not the betrayal. But her ability to spin. And she'd already started. Playing the part of the abandoned wife. The misunderstood woman. The one who tried, poor thing, but was met with silence and emotional unavailability. The same woman who had her legs wrapped around my brother last month in a hotel room paid for by our joint credit card. So yeah, the gloves were off. First step? Social optics. We shared friends, family, community. And Claire's version of events had already begun its slithering crawl through church groups and yoga classes, brunch circles, and neighborhood walks. Oh, Ethan was never home. Oh, Claire tried everything to fix things. Oh, he was always distant. Maybe not faithful himself. You know, the greatest hits from the Cheating 101. Blame the Victim album. But I had something Claire didn't. Receipts. Literal ones. And a plan. I went to a friend, Tyrell, who works in PR. Good man. Ex-military, sharp mind, and no patience for cheaters. She's trying to frame the narrative before the facts come out, I told him. He grinned. Then you hit her with facts so clean, the dirt slides off you and sticks to her like a second skin. We met for coffee at a quiet diner on the edge of town. He opened his laptop and leaned in. I'll draft a statement. Simple. Heartfelt. No trash talk. Just facts. We let people fill in the blanks themselves. You think that'll work? Tyrell's smile was razor sharp. Ethan, the truth always works. You just have to shine the right light on it. The next day, I posted it. Not on some tabloid page. Not even on my main social media. I sent it to specific people, the ones Claire had already whispered to. I sent it in private messages. Just a brief note, a picture of the cruise confirmation under her maiden name, and a polite, "Hey, I heard there's some confusion. I wanted to clarify privately. Here's the timeline. I found out in April. Claire left for the cruise in May. I filed for divorce in June. I'm not here to argue. Just here to make sure no one gets misled." The silence was loud. But then came the replies. "I'm so sorry, Ethan. I had no idea. She said you were emotionally distant. This doesn't add up. Thank you for telling me. You've always been solid." One by one, the fog began to clear. Claire had spun a web. I walked in with a box of matches and burned it down. That night, she called. Blocked number. I knew it was her. "Why are you doing this?" Her voice was tired. Flat. That faux victim tremble just under the surface. "You're making this worse than it has to be." I stayed silent for a second, then said, "You already did that. You're humiliating me," she hissed. "No," I said. "I'm stopping you from humiliating me." She fell quiet, then tried a different tactic. "Think about Lily. Think about what this is doing to her." That hit me, not because she was right, but because she'd finally thrown the last card she had. "Our daughter. She's the only reason," I said, voice cold, "that I haven't dismantled you publicly. She doesn't need her mom dragged across the pavement. But don't mistake my restraint for forgiveness. Ethan, no. Listen, you don't get to wreck a home and then complain about the broken glass." I ended the call, blocked the number. She wouldn't be calling again. Later that week, Ben showed up. At my house. No call. No warning. Just him. On my porch, in his uniform like that meant anything anymore. I opened the door, looked at him like the stranger he'd become, and said nothing. He cleared his throat. "Look, man, I didn't come to fight. I wanted to say I'm sorry." I stared at him. "You wanted to say it?" I asked, calm as a frozen lake. "Or your job said you should?" He looked down. "Shame. Guilt. Whatever." It didn't move me. "I made a mistake," he mumbled. "No. You made a choice," I corrected. "A mistake is tripping on a stair. You chose to sleep with my wife." Repeatedly. Ben winced. "You think you can say sorry and we'll hug it out?" I continued. "You think this is some Lifetime movie where the betrayed brother comes around and learns about forgiveness? Nah, man. This isn't TV." He looked away. "I deserve that." "You deserve a lot more than that," I said. "But lucky for you, I'm not interested in revenge." He perked up. "You're not?" "No," I said. "I'm interested in clarity. I want the world to see you for what you are, and I want you to live in it. Not hiding, not deflecting, just owning it." He stepped off the porch. I didn't watch him go. Didn't need to. Some exits don't deserve an audience. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Not because it was over, but because I had taken it back. My story, my peace, my sense of self. And somewhere in that darkness, I realized I wasn't just surviving this. I was building something new, brick by brick, on a foundation that couldn't be cracked by lies. Because I wasn't the man who got left. I was the man who walked out of the fire holding the truth like a torch. When the storm clears, what you're left with isn't silence. It's echoes. The kind that linger in the walls, under your skin, deep in the marrow of what used to be home. After the fallout, after Claire's lies shriveled under the weight of truth, and Ben went back to hiding in the shadows of his own disgrace, I started sifting through the remains. Not to rebuild what was, but to figure out what should be. You learn a lot about people when they think you're down. Who calls? Who goes quiet? Who offers condolences with one hand and clutches gossip in the other? My phone was quieter than ever. But I preferred that, because the ones who mattered, they were still standing beside me. Hannah, Lily, Tyrell, Olivia, my lawyer. A few coworkers who didn't ask questions, they just showed up with a beer or a joke or a quiet nod that said, "I got you." And then there was me. And I had a job to do. Clean up the mess without becoming it. The divorce moved fast. Claire tried to stall. Played nice. Then played nasty. She claimed she was emotionally manipulated. Said she felt trapped in a loveless marriage. Olivia didn't even blink. She presented the timeline. The photos. The text threads. The receipts. Then she played the ace. Claire had forged my signature on a joint account withdrawal 2 months before the cruise. Over 10 grand. All traceable. All illegal. Funny what people do when they think love's blind and deaf. "You'll be getting primary custody," Olivia told me. "And she's lucky you're not pursuing fraud charges." I didn't want her locked up. I wasn't out to ruin her life. I just didn't want her infecting mine anymore. But Ben? Well, that's a different story. See, Ben didn't just betray me. He erased me. He stepped into my home, sat at my table, probably held my kid's hand on the way to school, all while lying through his teeth. That kind of betrayal doesn't get patched up with a handshake. So I made some calls. Not to hurt him, just to expose him. I sent an anonymous tip to his fire department with evidence of his side business, personal training while on duty. There were photos, GPS data, a burner account on a sketchy site selling fitness plans with photos suspiciously similar to shirtless firehouse selfies. You want to play dirty behind my back? Fine. But don't expect a clean rep when the curtain drops. Internal review. Suspension pending investigation. When he texted me, "Why would you do this?" I replied, "You torch my life. I just returned the favor." Only difference? I brought a fire extinguisher. With the legal side nearly wrapped, I turned to what mattered most, Lily. Every night, we talked. Not about the mess. Not directly. But kids know. They feel it in the quiet spaces. In the way rooms fill or empty around them. Is mommy bad? She asked one night. And man, that one? That one gutted me. I knelt beside her bed, smoothed her hair, and said, "No, sweetheart. But sometimes, grown-ups make really bad choices. And when they do, it doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Then, are you going to leave too?" I shook my head. Not a chance. I'm here. Always. That's a promise I'll keep.